Time up. Deep right field. Down the line it goes. Castellanos is out of room. It's out of runner goes. 3-2 pitch hit down the line. Is it fair? It is a fair ball. Into the corner. Off and running. Chu. Yu Chang around third. He's going to score easily. And into second. In hard. In deep. Up and out. Goes Amed Rosario. And there's a fly ball. Left field. It's deep. It's up. It's gone to the porch. Deep left center field, it is gone to Souvenir City.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Kirby, joined once again by Believe Land owner and Believe Land prep co-host, Kevin Sleds. How we doing, Kevin?
I'm doing good. I'm doing about as good as the Guardians are doing.
Yeah, how much fun is this? Like, I got my Guardians W background up for those of you watching on video. I know we got 3 outs to go in the 9th, but this team just came into San Diego and just completely kicked them while they're down. We all know the Padres are struggling since the trade. I think they're 8-11 since picking up Soto, Josh Bell, and Hader. And I mean, I don't know, Kevin, the waters are looking awfully muddy in San Diego right now.
It's not looking good after all those moves, and they're barely hanging on to that third wild card spot.
Yeah, it's like something I heard on the broadcast tonight. They were, asking Cal if this game, like, if he had a little extra edge to him for this game. And he's like, I mean, I don't really know anybody on that team anymore. And he's only been gone from the Padres for 2 years. It just goes to show AJ Preller is not afraid to make trades, and obviously they don't always work out for him because we've benefited from those.
Exactly. Yes, we have, for sure.
I wonder how Padres fans feel seeing Club get the L last night and Quantrill just shut him out for 7 innings today.
That's awesome.
As he loses his mind coming off the mound.
I love his fire. Him and Karinchak, though Karinchak's is a little different level, but
and Josh Naylor, like this team's got. And I don't know, like, so just to kind of open with just the success, like this team hitting their stride at the right time, which we kind of touched on last week, but they officially own the best record in the American League since the All-Star break at 19-12. Yes, that's better than the Astros, the Blue Jays. Obviously, the Yankees have been struggling big time, but it's August 24th. They're 65-56. That's good enough for 9 games above 500, and they're 3 games up in the American League Central. And I mean, say what you want about the American League Central, but they can't control the division they play in, and they're not just beating up on the AL Central. They went into they went into LA, took a series from the Dodgers. They're about to sweep San Diego. Like this team shows up when it counts. And I mentioned last week, I felt like they were almost playing down to the Tigers. Like this team shows up when it matters.
Oh, they do, for sure. And I was just hoping at this point to be around the 500 mark, and like you said, they're 9 games above, so they've far exceeded my expectations so far. And then the bullpen has been a big surprise. You've got noted here 64 innings pitch in August, 6-1 with a 2.11 ERA, 78 Ks, and only 12 walks. I mean, those are amazing stats. And Karinchak is really rounded into form. He's able to do it without the sticky stuff, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, he does have kind of an interesting mix of like sweat from his head and like rosin. I saw someone say on Twitter, I hope this formula works in October when it's a little cooler outside and he doesn't have as much sweat on his forehead. But whatever he's doing, it's legal. It's working for him. They check his hand after every inning he comes out. But Karinchak's a guy that I was 99.9% sure was washed. He was cooked. He was done. That we had seen the last of meaningful James Karinchak on this roster. I kind of thought he would just kind of rot away at AAA, not knowing how to pitch without sticky stuff. But, I'm happy to eat my words on that one. The 7th inning was becoming problematic for this team, kind of bridging from the starters to get to Stephan in Class A. And Sandlin and Karinchak have just stepped up to the plate. Sandlin has had 14 straight scoreless appearances, and Karinchak's had 16 straight scoreless appearances. And I mean, that'll play. That's definitely gonna play in the playoffs. And all it takes is getting in. And I always tell people when they're like, oh, well, they're just gonna lose in the first round anyways. Nobody thought the 88 win Atlanta Braves would win the World Series last year.
Right.
They didn't get hot until the second half of the season. They kind of hit their stride. And, they didn't have any serious deadline acquisitions last year either. They picked up Eddie Rosario, Jorge Soler, just a couple filling guys to give them some depth. And those guys, Jock Peterson. So, yeah, the Guardians didn't make any major moves, but it's obviously because they like what they have here. And a humongous part of that's been Andres Jimenez, our all-star starting second baseman who, this is a guy who last year couldn't stick with the big league club, right? He was up and down. I was convinced he was going to be kind of a stopgap guy. I went into the year thinking the middle infield of the future would be Rocchio and Freeman. Rosario and Jimenez can play here this season. Whatever happens, happens. But I mean, this guy's cementing himself as one of the best second basemen ever at this point. He's still hitting over 300. He's hit hour, added another home run last night. He's stealing bases. Obviously, the Gold Glove defense. And I read an ESPN article today, which Jimenez has the 6th highest WAR for a second baseman 23 or younger since 1947 at 5.3. Wow. I mean, he could win a Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, and get MVP votes. How do you even move him off of second base at this point? He's so good over there.
Yeah, he's gotten so comfortable. I mean, I don't know how you can, but like you said, Rocchio is up at AAA now, so he's knocking on the door to the major leagues. It looks like he may be the future shortstop. I know they're moving Arias around now. He played some first base. Now he's playing some outfield, so they're adding some flexibility with him. Yeah, I mean, Jimenez could end up staying at second. I mean, I know you have Tyler Freeman as well, but I mean, it's a good problem to have. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. You just mentioned Nolan Jones, who, after the rain out on Sunday was, as we know, optioned back to AAA Columbus, and they recalled our good friend Richie Palacios. And the word is that Nolan Jones, went to Tito asking to get some reps at first base, probably just dying to get on the field somehow. He knew he wasn't going to supplant Oscar Gonzalez in right field at this time. And I give the kid credit. He's like, where do I got to go to get on the field? They sent him back to AAA to get those reps and kind of work on his swing. He had a home run again last night in his second at bat since returning. But this kind of begs the question too. They recalled Richie Palacios. They left Will Benson up here. Just this constant shuffling, trying to get these kids at bats, because Tyler Freeman, before today had 28 plate appearances since being recalled almost a month ago. It's been 8 days since he played, and he had 3 strikeouts today, I think.
Yeah.
We saw Nolan Jones struggling when he wasn't playing every day. It makes me wonder why they even called Tyler Freeman up in the first place, especially if you're giving Owen Miller those, late inning pinch hit, those random starts. And I get Owen Miller being on the big league club because he plays first base, or so they think he plays first base. But at this point, if you're going to have Tyler Freeman up here, go put a first base glove on his hand. He's young, he's athletic. I have all the faith in the world that he would figure it out and not drop, almost every ball that comes his way. That's even, even if it's right there, just drops it for no reason at all.
Right.
And what do you think they're doing with Tyler Freeman at this point in time? Because I look at lineups and, he started today, but it came at the expense of Andres Jimenez being out of the lineup, and Owen Miller still gets the start over at first base. Like, I'm just really trying to figure out why they have him up here right now. I'd rather he go back down and play every day.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I don't know if they just wanted him to get a little taste of the big leagues, but like you said, you can't expect him to sit for 7-8 days and then come up and get 2-3 hits in a game. I mean, you're going to get what happened today. I mean, you fall out of rhythm, especially these young guys. Yeah, if they're not going to play him, at least 3-4 times a week, and how are you going to right now? Like you said, with Jimenez at second, and the whole infield, Ramirez, Rosario, you're not going to take these guys out of the lineup for more than a day. So you might as well send them back to Columbus and let them get every day at bats. I mean, that's going to be the best thing for him right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, because we mentioned Richie Palacios being the guy who got the call back up. And, we know when he was up here, his first go around, he was kind of a rare success story and that he could come off the bench late in a game and he made an impact. Not every guy is cut out for a role like that. Some guys need consistent at bats to kind of get in a rhythm and find their swing. Richie's a guy who I have confidence if he comes off the bench late in a game, he's going to put up a great at bat and more times than not, he makes an impact in one way or another. And, it's interesting to me, obviously we know he plays left field and Will Benson stayed up here. So I have a theory here. And I look kind of stupid because I know Myles got on base a couple times today. But I've been wondering the last few days if any part of them regrets giving him that contract extension before this season. You know, we were talking about Todd earlier, but he tweeted from Guards Pro that over the last 89 games, Myles has a 175 average, a 243 on base percentage, and only has 13 extra base hits and only 8 steals. We know that Myles Straw is pretty much still playing every day because of his glove. He made another outstanding catch out in center today. He has 10 defensive run saves, which we know is elite. It's one of the best, but he only has a WAR around 1, I think, which shows just how terrible his offense has been. And it's not dramatic when people say it's been one of the worst offensive seasons in the modern baseball era. Like, we see, Kevin, I'm sure when you watch too, it's like one of two things happens. It's a weak ground ball to the left side of the infield, or it's a shallow pop to right field. Like an insane number of his at bats. I don't have the specific stats in front of me right now, but an insane number of his at bats ends in one of those two things. And this season he has a 57 OPS plus, which is on base plus slugging, which takes in other factors. And that's the worst in all of baseball by a fairly large margin. But even more shocking is his current OPS of 535 would it literally be one of the worst ever since they began tracking the stat. Like, it's almost hard to be that bad. And it just makes me wonder, are they going to start giving Will Benson a few more starts in center field? Are they going to start Richie in left and kind of slide Quan over to center a couple times a week? Because again, I tell people there's a reason Myles Straw was not playing every single day in a very, very good Houston Astros lineup. And that's not to say he didn't have an impact. He thrived in that role. He was a fourth outfielder, came in late in the game, defensive replacement, and a pinch runner. We know how fast he is. And honestly, he thrived in that role. I would argue he would have more value to this team in a role like that, as opposed to putting him in that 9 hole as an automatic out behind the catcher every day. What are your thoughts on that? What they do with Myles Straw right now?
Yeah, right now, I don't know how you can continue to play him every day when you're in a pennant race and a race for the division. I mean, his swing just looks, it's weak. I mean, he looks like he's swinging a 50-pound bat. I mean, he looks nothing like the player he was last year. I don't know what happened. But like you said, he's only in there for his defense. But I mean, Will Benson is a pretty damn good defensive center fielder as well. And Quan can hold his own in center field. And they also have a guy in Columbus who's a good center fielder who's just been tearing the cover off the ball all season, and Will Brennan. And I'm assuming that's why he hasn't been brought up yet, because they want him to play pretty much every day. So, I mean, you have a lot of other options. Like you said, I think it's probably not going to happen this year, but next season, I envision him in that fourth outfielder role, pinch runner, defensive replacement, giving guys a day off every now and then. I think that's going to be his best role going forward.
Do you think they roster Will Brennan this winter?
Will
Do you think
Benson?
that's a lock? Yeah, both of them, right? Benson and Brennan.
Yeah.
Both have to be added.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like I said, it puzzles you why they didn't move some of these guys at the deadline to make the decision a little easier. So, I mean, there's going to be some guys left off that really should be rostered. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
The starters too. I mean, I know they've got to look at Xavier Curry. He's a guy who's got to be added. you know, they had Peyton Battenfield up for that series in Toronto. He obviously never saw the field, went back down. They didn't even want to get a look at him. And then what, Joey Cantillo, Hunter Gaddis. I mean, and that's not even getting to the cream of the crop, which is Gavin Williams and Daniel Espino, who don't need to
Right.
be added right now, but they're the two guys, whenever we talk about those starters of the future, those two guys' names go right to the forefront. But it makes you wonder, what do they do with all these, you know, mid to back end guys they got to add?
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and it's very unfortunate that Espino got injured. It didn't look serious when it happened, but it looks like he may not pitch the rest of the season.
It's looking well, like maybe even, do you think he'll go to the ACL?
I don't
Arizona
know.
Fall League?
I don't know if he misses the rest of the season. He may not, which it sucks. It's gonna hurt his development a little bit, but
Yeah, I mean they could add a Espino and Williams in that Akron rotation.
oh my
I mean,
gosh,
and who knows if they would even moved him up to AAA, depending on how he would have went there. You know, what kind of success he would have
right?
had. But the way he started the season was just unbelievable.
Yeah, he's his arm is incredible. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be another. I'm just glad we might have a little playoff run. You know, before we're talking this time last year, I think we were already debating who's going to be added to the 40.
Right.
And guys like Oscar Gonzalez and Stephen Kwan were like, I don't know if we need to add them. And it just goes to show, like, these are big decisions the front office has to make, because these guys, we weren't, some people weren't sure if they'd even add last year. And, you know, they're two of the main reasons this team is 3 games up in the division right now.
And I think that's part of the reason they're cycling a lot of these guys up through Cleveland to get a look at them, to kind of influence that decision one way or the other.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but something just tells me Gabriel Arias is going to be the odd man out. I know they're playing him all over right now, but I really think, depending on what kind of moves they're trying to make, it just for some reason feels to me he's gonna be the guy that's gonna get moved. You can't keep all of them. You can't keep
No,
Jimenez, Rocchio, Freeman, you know, all these guys. I mean, there's only 2 spots, and only one of them can be a utility guy, and it's tough. I mean, like you said, you'll get value in return. I mean, it'd be part of a pretty significant trade if they did move him, maybe for a starter. But something's just eating at me, telling me not to get too excited about Gabriel Arias. I'm not sure how long he'll be sticking around for.
well, he keeps getting hurt too. Again, last night he got hit on the back of the foot with a pitch and wasn't in the lineup today. So it's happened to him a couple times this season.
He has had the worst luck with injuries. I feel so, and then he gets called up to the majors right when he comes back from the broken
Yeah,
hand.
that was
Obviously
unfair.
looks overmatched because the timing was awful.
Right.
So I'm definitely not judging him on how he's looked in the majors thus far or anything. Dude's had a lot of tough luck injuries, but I don't know. It would really hurt to lose him, though. That's
It
one
would,
thing I'm sure of.
but like you said, we're gonna lose one or two of these guys at some point.
Yeah, and another little news and notes. So the Guardians and the rest of Major League Baseball's 2023 schedule was released today, and I'll tell you what, if you're just looking at it for the first time, it looks a lot different than what we're used to seeing. You know, they're not going to be able to feast off the AL Central anymore. You know, it's the first year of that balanced schedule, that limited interdivisional play. It's kind of an interesting mix here. So they're going to play each team in the Central 13 times as opposed to 19. I think that breaks down to be like 4 series instead of 6. And I mean, you're still getting a really good look at the teams in your division. They're still keeping it competitive there. But the biggest change, you're playing 46 interleague games instead of 20, which I kind of think it's cool, like to see guys like Ronald Acuna Jr. and, you know, these young guys who are coming up that, you know, if they play in the National League, we're not going to get to see too often, maybe once every 5-6 years or something like that, maybe once every 10 years in your home ballpark. So I think it's good. I think it's a good attempt to market the young stars of this game, get people more excited about the game now that you're going to get to see everybody in the league, not just, you know, the teams you play that particular year from the other league. And it's still just kind of a piss poor job marketing it right in the middle of a pennant race, though. Like, just the things Major League Baseball does timing wise makes no sense. I mean, you got teams fans turning on MLB Network and ESPN wanting to hear about pennant races. Oh, what? The 2023 schedule, but my team's still in it. I don't want to think about the schedule for next year yet.
Yeah, it's
So
very.
what are you thinking about this new balance schedule?
I don't know what to make of it. It's going to be different for sure. I did see you noted they finished the season with Cincy and Detroit, so that's a good thing.
That could come in handy, just like the 6 against KC this year. That could come in handy.
I mean, like you said, it's going to be cool to see some of these players that we're not used to seeing with some of these teams that we don't get to play too often. So from a fan point of view, that'll be cool. But it is going to be weird only playing the teams in our division 13 times.
Yeah, and just a couple. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and like like you said, the timing of trying to market this is very odd.
It's just baffling. I don't know why they'd think end of August going into September is when people want to hear. I mean, most like the NBA does it in the off season, like that lull point of the off season when people are starting to forget about the NBA for a minute. Oh, here's our schedule. Bam, they drum up interest.
Yeah.
Maybe Major League Baseball feels like they're not able to do that in their off season because the NFL runs their off season and they'll never be able to compete with anything NFL related, especially when the NFL is in season. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. Maybe they're just trying to get it out there when, most people's eyes are on Major League Baseball right now, if you're a general sports fan.
Very true.
So just a couple highlights from this schedule release. They open all Major League Baseball teams open on March 30th. It's like the first time in I forget how many years that all the teams open on the same day. There's not like one random Sunday night game and things like that. But they open on the West Coast. They'll start in Seattle and head over to Oakland. And their home opener will be a week later, April 7th, in a rematch against Seattle. And then, this will be a fun one. May 19th to May 21st, the Guardians travel to Citi Field to check on our old friends, Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco, if he's still there, for the first time since the big trade. Rosario and Jimenez if Rosario's still here, will get to go back to Citi Field and face their old teammates. So I think that'll be a fun series. I'm sure that trade is going to be the whole talk of that week, seeing who won it, who lost it.
I was going to say, who's Lindor? Forgot about that guy.
This is going to be known as the Andres Jimenez trade.
Exactly.
Francisco Lindor is an afterthought. So now that we got all that housekeeping stuff out the way, the couple guys who are struggling, and just a side note, Owen Miller's sporting a 186 batting average versus lefties. And I know Tyler Freeman has not had many at-bats in the majors yet, but I guarantee you he will hit better than 186 versus lefties. But for some reason, someone needs to fill Tito in on these like reverse split stats. Like just because he bats right-handed, the pitcher's left-handed, doesn't mean anything. Not every right-handed batter is good versus lefties, but I really think Owen Miller's taken on that Ernie Clement role. Like, oh, he's a gamer. He can just come off the bench and come in and put up a good at-bat. So whatever. I've just kind of resigned myself to the fact that if there's a lefty on the mound, Owen Miller's playing first base, and I'm just going to stop getting frustrated about it because we're winning. Somehow what's happening is working. So I guess it's a little easier to not complain when, we're getting the W at the end of the day.
True.
Speaking of getting the W's at the end of the day, a week last week that started out, a little rocky, losing 2 out of 3 to the Detroit Tigers in a series, which I think a lot of us thought we'd either sweep or definitely take 3 out of 4. Since the last recording, the Guardians went 4-1. The 1 versus Detroit, 2 versus Chicago with the rain out, and then these 2 versus San Diego. I actually chalked this one up as a win before the final out, but it was 7-0 in the 9th, so we'll move past that. But we go all the way back to last Wednesday. The offense was asleep most of the game. Cal was not sharp, definitely was not sharp like he was today. He went 6 innings, gave up 4 runs on 5 hits, 2 strikeouts, and 2 walks. And, remember, this was the game that came after, the game with all the botched calls, blocking the plate and the drop third strike and the umpire not paying attention. All that stuff did not go in the Guardians' favor last Tuesday. Last Wednesday, it did go in our favor. So it was the 8th inning. They were the first 2 of the innings struck out for the Guardians, and then Luke Maley struck out a 3rd time, and the catcher dropped the ball. Luke Maley gets to first base, and the Guardians ended up scoring 6 runs after that. It's the first time in the modern era since 1961 that a team has scored 6+ runs after striking out 3 times. And I can imagine there's not a ton of stats on that because usually 3 strikeouts means you're out of the inning.
That was one of the craziest innings I've ever seen in all my years of watching baseball.
Yeah, like they bipped them to death. Like you had, I mean, it wasn't like they're drilling home runs, right? Like you had the Straw single, Quan the ground rule double, which if that didn't bounce in the stands, that would have gave us the lead right there.
Yeah.
But Rosario comes up, swinging bunt, infield single. Twins fans were probably disgusted. All week, the Twins and White Sox fans are saying what a disgusting brand of baseball this team plays. And Quan's not going to, his success isn't sustainable because he doesn't hit home runs. And look at that. Rosario, swinging bunt, infield single. Jose, 2 RBI bloop single that knocked Akil Baddoo to the ground. 2-run score. And then Oscar Gonzalez smokes a double off the left field wall, like as hard as you could hit a ball into that wall, which, I mean, I don't know if you got to count, Kevin, but the amount of home runs that wall in his home ballpark steals from Oscar Gonzalez is just insane.
It is, unfortunately.
Like once he figures out how to lift him over that wall, like the league better watch out because then that power is coming once he figures out how to beat that wall. So they came from behind, beat the Tigers with those 6 runs in the 8th inning, which you just had to salvage a split of that series. There's no way you could have. I couldn't imagine what the morale would have been of the team if they would have lost that series to the Tigers.
Yeah, it was a very disappointing start, but like you said, it ended well, thankfully, and carried some momentum into that Chicago series.
Yeah, and I really do wonder, we'll never know, but they were running they were feeling themselves leaving Toronto, winning that series. They knew the White Sox were coming after the Tigers. I mean, that was a trap series. It had trap series written all over it. They're just lucky they got out of that with a split.
Definitely.
So Friday, those dreaded White Sox. Tristan started for us versus Lance Lynn for the White Sox, and it didn't start the way we all would have wanted it to. Tristan allowed those 2 runs into the first, and then he morphed into like the best pitcher in the last decade after that first inning. He struck out 14 batters, which was a career high for him, including 8 of the last 10 that he faced in 7 innings, allowing only the 2 runs. And this is the Tristan, like when he believes in himself and he is commanding his pitches, this is the guy you get. And this is the guy that very arguably could be the ace of this staff right now.
Oh, without a doubt. I think he's the future ace of this staff for sure. Yeah, that was an incredible performance. Another big comeback, down 2-1. They scored 4 runs with 2 outs in the 7th inning, all with 2 outs. The Quan triple, Rosario single,
fun.
And a Mendez 2-run single. It was fun. And looking at the pitching matchup coming into that game with Tristan as good as he's been pitching and Lance Lynn, it's been absolute garbage. But they struggled against him, but they pulled it out late. It was a big win for sure.
And it's a scary type of game because sometimes that's who the Guardians struggle against.
Yeah.
Like all the no-name starters, the Tigers ran out there that we couldn't touch. I mean, Lucas Giolito for the White Sox sucks against the entire rest of the league except for us. We cannot hit his changeup. We don't get even close to his changeup. So, I mean, Lance Lynn has looked cooked all season, but sometimes that's the guys the Guardians can't hit. And, thank God they got him out of there when they did. And I've been saying, like, when I talk with people, who you most scared of, Twins or the White Sox? Honestly, neither of them, but I've been saying, like, yeah, the White Sox were predicted to win this thing, but between their injuries, Robert, Anderson, and Jimenez cannot all stay on the field at the same time. I think there was a stat they've had like the most lineups or the second most lineups in the whole league all season, just due to all the injuries that they've had. And then their bullpen's just not good. I mean, their bullpen's not good at all. And we know the Guardians, Josh Naylor in particular, has had Liam Hendricks's number. So if it came down the stretch, I like the Guardians' chances. And then, I mean, they have Tony La Russa on the other side, and he just does multiple things a game that makes absolutely no sense. So, like, in that sense, like, I like our chances if it came down to it down the stretch, because they're just a team that beats themselves with their bad defense, poor decision making, and inability to stay on the field.
I guess if I had to choose between the two, I might give Chicago a little bit of an edge just because of Dylan Cease and Johnny Cueto.
Yeah, Cueto is looking like the World Series Johnny Cueto when he was on the Royals.
Yeah, he's really revitalized his career. But I mean, there's not a starting pitcher on the Twins staff that really strikes fear into me. Maybe their lineups may be a little better, but like I said, neither one of them I think are going to be a huge concern. Hopefully down the stretch, we've got 8 games against Minnesota. Hopefully we take care of business. Even if you just split 4-4, you're in good shape. Assuming we have this lead going in.
Byron Buxton just went on the IL.
Yeah.
Today too, and it's looking like that that might be kind of a long-term thing for him, which honestly, just as a baseball fan, like, baseball's better when he's in there flying into walls, diving in the outfield, hitting bombs. But ever since he came up, the dude just can't stay healthy. He's another one, just like the White Sox guys we mentioned, that he struggles to stay on the field. I mean, to the point where they've been load managing him this year, before he even had injuries, to try to prevent this down the stretch. And, unfortunately, he had to hit the IL today. But, Jose Miranda is a guy I like for them in the middle of their lineup. I think he's a guy who's probably going to torture us for the next decade or so. But lucky for us, we got guys like Jimenez and Naylor and Oscar Gonzalez and George Valera, who are hopefully going to be doing the same thing to them. But yeah, as you mentioned, nobody in their rotation really scares me. Sonny Gray has his moments, but at the end of the day, he's still Sonny Gray. He's going to go through his inconsistent stretches. And Joe Ryan's young. He's a great arm, but he's been susceptible to the home run ball himself. So, I mean, as up and down as our rotation has been this season, I really think they're starting to hit their stride now. It's important to note too that with the rain out on Sunday and the off day Monday, they skipped Zach Plesac's start altogether this week. So that gives him a few extra days. He's been struggling a little bit. Obviously didn't have help from the umpires, but I don't know. If you'd asked me, I'm impressed with the state of our starting rotation at this point in the season.
I am too, because Savali's starting to show some signs. I know he got pulled in the 5th inning last night, but he's starting to look a little bit like the pitcher of old, thankfully. And like I said, Tristan's been killing it. Beavers, turned the corner. Now Plesac's the only one that's really been up and down. Cal's turned the corner and it's been pitching lights out. The last start before tonight was a little rough, but before that, he had a couple good ones in a row.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned it last week. I just think that's the biggest difference is this time last year, they're all on the injured list, right? Yeah. We just had anybody who had an arm filling in starts. Yeah. And it's crazy to me. Kind of off topic. I remember watching this team last year and I would just be on the edge of my seat, just waiting for a single. Like, please just tell me we're not going to get no hit again. Like, somebody please just get a single.
Right.
And it's like now they made this lineup this year of just contact guys who are going to find the holes. They're rookies and they're putting up at bats regularly like they're veterans. Like, they were making sure they were not getting no hit like they were last year. And same with the rotation.
Oh, it was frustrating last year, but especially with a guy like Sam Hentges, who is not a starting pitcher. I kept screaming, just put him in the bullpen. Let him just come in there for an inning and let loose. That's going to be where he succeeds. And he kept getting pushed out. I mean, they didn't have a choice. They were down almost their whole rotation. But you're seeing the difference with when he can settle in the bullpen this year. And, he's gotten comfortable and he's having a lot of success, and he's a big part of that bullpen success.
He never even pitched at AAA, did he? Did he get called up from Akron?
I'm pretty sure he did.
I'm thinking he skipped AAA.
I can't remember, but I think you might be right.
Yeah, because he's young. I think they were that desperate.
Yeah. Oh, they were really desperate. Some of the
just
guys they threw out there.
Yeah, Logan Allen, who I think just got DFA'd by the Orioles too.
Yeah, he did.
Just kind of check up on an old friend there. He just got DFA'd. Zimmer's not with the Blue Jays anymore. I mean, and it shows we were running these guys out on a regular basis last season in a major league lineup. And I mean, if you remember, up until like the first week of August, like it's not like we were 17 games out. Like we were still like 5 games out, thinking like, what if we keep this thing close? Like, they got Myles at the deadline. We were kind of excited, but then I remember Karinchak imploded against the Red Sox that kind of first weekend or second weekend in August. And then you flash forward 1 year. They had health in their starting rotation. And I was looking back at my preseason predictions for this team, and I thought Savali could be a guy who could like get Cy Young consideration, and who knows what could have happened if, he would have been healthy all season. Because before he had that finger injury last year, like he was definitely going to be an all-star.
Yep.
And he definitely would have been in the Cy Young conversation, especially because, the Cy Young convo in the AL wasn't a runaway last year by any means. So if he could have kept up at that pace, he would have been in that mix. So I don't think it was that far-fetched to think that he could be a guy who could have been in that conversation. But like you said, with him just now starting to kind of settle in, I think it'll, 3 starts off the injured list. He's still got the whole month of September. Even if in a playoff series, you brought him out of the bullpen, like he's a guy who's going to command the baseball. Like he's not going to hurt himself. You mentioned last night. I mean, he did not have it at all.
No.
He is never that wild. And he was frustrated by it. But you know what? He battled and he gave up 1 run. Right. And he at least gave him 4 2/3. I mean, last night looked like a game he could be out of there in the second inning. But he managed to battle and just find a way to get through at least 4 innings. So he's definitely going to be a valuable weapon down the stretch. I mean, he's got one of the nastiest curveballs in all of baseball. So
he does, for sure.
He's always going to be a weapon. But back to Saturday. So Saturday, not much to say about Saturday. Bieber and Cueto, they were both great. It's just one of those games you got to tip your cap to Johnny Cueto. He showed out, had us off balance all night. 3-hour rain delay. I think everybody just kind of wanted to get out of there at that point. But he went 8 2/3 innings. I have no idea why La Russa even went and got him with 2 outs. That was silly, but La Russa does silly things.
Yes, he does.
But yeah, no runs, only 2 strikeouts, no walk. He utilized his defense, but that's what veterans do. He was a stabilizing force for him after a loss, and he's a guy that scares me down the stretch because he's got that experience. He's been in World Series. He knows how to pitch in the big moments, and I thought that was a great pickup for him, and I kind of couldn't stand that they got him because I'm like, he could play a factor.
Definitely.
But you mentioned last night's game. So we mentioned that they got rained out on Sunday, which was just a weird situation. They delayed the game for hours upon hours. Apparently Elton John, rumor has it Elton John ruined our sod in left field. Not sure what that's about, but
you were
I'm
there
blaming
too,
Elton John.
Were you there Sunday?
No, but I had tickets. I actually had tickets, and I'm driving around delivering Saturday night, and I'm just hearing how this rain delay, like 3-hour long rain delay. And I'm like, I took one look at the forecast Sunday, and I'm like, this is going to be one of those days where I'd be sitting down there all day. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stay at home for this one. I'm glad I did. And I understand if the field really wasn't draining, obviously we don't want anybody getting hurt out there, slipping and falling, especially because Stephen Kwan plays left field for us. And hey, it got us 2 days off.
I was kind of wondering the same thing. I'm watching the Browns game, like it's not raining.
Yeah.
And every time I look, delay. But then I seen, guys walking in the outfield and water splashing up, big puddles on the warning track. So, I mean, you can't take any chances with the health of guys playing in those conditions.
Yeah, and I guess baseball and football is like kind of a different animal, but
Yeah,
that's what everybody's first thought was. Well, the Browns
right.
are playing right up the road, no issues. So it was frustrating. But while they were away, while they were on the plane out to San Diego, they got some help. On Monday as well. The Rangers ended up taking 3 out of 4 from Minnesota at Target Field, which shocked me. Like,
Hmm.
color me shocked. I thought the Rangers would get swept because the Twins are a completely different team at Target Field than they are on the road. They're really, really good at Target Field, but the Rangers found a way. They helped us out, took 3 of 4. And the White Sox went to Kansas City for a makeup game on Monday and they ended up losing. So while the Guardians got some rest, they gained a full game on Minnesota and they picked up a half a game on Chicago, which, put us 3 games up, which is huge. Like, it just feels like, I mean, even like Fox Sports and unfortunately Bob Nightingale
Yeah,
are starting to notice, like, wait a minute, the Guardians are pulling away a little bit. Like, because for a solid month and a half, this thing's been within 2 games.
yeah,
I mean, nobody's really got a 3-4 game lead in a while. So and the Guardians are trending upwards. And the Twins are playing the Astros now. No one's really talking about it, but they got kind of a tough stretch coming up themselves. They got the Yankees in a week or
yep.
so. I think they play the Dodgers still, or I don't know. They got some teams coming up in September, and if the Guardians can just kind of tread water, maybe split with Seattle. They play Baltimore and Seattle when they come back home on the next homestand. It's going to be big because September they get the head-to-heads. They get Kansas City again. They can kind of take a little breath, not take their foot off the gas, but they can kind of breathe for a minute. They'll at least have those head-to-head opportunities, but I'll tell you what, heading into San Diego, they knew the situation when they took the field on Tuesday night with them having the late game. And, Mike Clevenger was on the mound, the guy everybody loves to hate. You know, Obviously we know how everybody felt about him when, he went out and Carlos Carrasco was just finishing his cancer treatments. And we all know the story with all that. So
Yeah.
who knows of any extra motivation some of these guys had to whip them around a little bit. But Oscar Gonzalez and Andres Gimenez were not a part of that team, but they understood the assignment and they each got a solo home run off of Mike Clevenger in this one. Gave the Guardians, a 2-0 lead, or I think it 1-0, and then Savali gave up a run, and then
Yeah.
Gimenez hit the go-ahead home run 2-1. Jose Ramirez added a big RBI single in the 8th. That was his 100th RBI of the season, which he's another one. Like, 2.5 months, he's been just slightly above average, not like otherworldly. And I mean, look at the numbers. He's got 25 home runs and 103, 104 RBIs or something. And this is like, damn, when's Jose going to break out of this slump?
Right.
That's like a career year for most guys in this league. And we're like, come on, Jose, any day now. Like, we really need you to start picking it up like you were the first couple months. And that's just what amazes me about this lineup, that we can have Jose be slightly above average and we're taking off. We're winning ball games with, Jose not quite being himself.
Well, the bullpen was part of the big story again last night. Going 4 1/3 scoreless innings, Sandlin, Karinchak, Stefan, and Clase.
That's the 4 right there.
Yeah, Sandlin 14 straight scoreless appearances and Karinchak 16 straight scoreless appearances. So that's absolutely huge.
I was just waiting for Eli Morgan to warm up last night so I could break my TV. Like, for some reason, he still wants to use them in high leverage spots. And what do you think they do with Cody Morris? I kind of thought we'd be seeing him up here. I thought that would have been a perfect opportunity for Eli Morgan to go down for a couple weeks, just like they did Sandlin, maybe work some kinks out, get him back up here and right.
Yeah, I would definitely swap those two out because Morris has looked outstanding. He's coming back to form after the long injury.
Yeah, he's throwing upper 90s.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think having a conversation with Justin Latta on Twitter the other day, I don't think he's pitching back-to-back games.
No,
but
not yet.
I don't think we really need him to.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think that should really prevent us from calling him up now because he looks ready. I mean, his stuff looks nasty right now.
Yeah, I think he's the guy that, long term will end up being a starter, but he could be a weapon out of that bullpen the rest of the season.
Yeah, and then just wrapping up today, that is a final now. Guardians take the quick 2-game sweep of the San Diego Padres. 7-0 they won today. Cal was absolutely outstanding. He went 7 scoreless innings. And Jose, right side of the plate, it looks like he's breaking out. 2 solo home runs. He had another hit. Oscar Gonzalez got jealous. He wanted to show everybody he could do it too. He hit an absolute moonshot to that little whatever that warehouse thing is in left field.
I don't know if you heard, but like in the background when he hit that home run, as soon as he hit it, somebody said, "Oh my God!" Like on the broadcast. I don't know who it was.
That came off the bat at like 110 miles an hour. Like he smoked that ball. Quan 2-run single, bases loaded in the 4th. Maley got in on the action with an RBI single. And just kind of what I mentioned earlier, Freeman finally got the start with Jimenez getting the day off, but he just didn't really look settled in. And how could you have an 8 days off? I just hope they figure out how to use him appropriately to where we're not damaging him. We're not ruining his confidence. He's a former top prospect for a reason. I really think he has a future on this team still.
Yeah.
And even if that means sending him back down for now, just to get him every day at bats, boost his confidence a little bit, I say go for it.
I'll tell you who's really impressed me is Luke Maley recently.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really been hitting the ball. I mean, he's gotten better defensively as a catcher, and just his offense. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, for his career so far, he hasn't done much offensively, but I mean, he's been really impressive. I know
he's just looked really comfortable.
Yeah, he has.
And I thought like the Bo noise would get to him a little bit, but
right.
He's used it as motivation. He's like Bo who.
Yeah, like, I don't think I'm just to the point where I don't think we see Naylor at all this season. Maybe not till next year.
Yeah, and that's a tough one because I could see the benefit with needing to add him anyways in the offseason. I could have seen the benefit in bringing him up kind of just to get him a taste of the action, maybe like what they're doing with Freeman. But I think with catcher, it's a little different because he does have to be like acclimated with the pitching staff. I don't think you can just throw him out there in a mid-September game against the Twins in a must-win. And, I think that might be a little unfair. Not that he couldn't hold his own, but it seems like with as valuable as he is to our future, they might want to set him up for success a little better than that.
And it seems like Maley too has almost become Tristan's personal catcher.
I noticed that.
So, I mean, that could be part of their success. Maybe that he's just comfortable with him behind the plate.
Yeah, and that could be too. And that's good. That happens sometimes, and it gets Maley kind of knows when he's going to be in there. He can mentally prepare for when he's going to get that start. Hedges did have that incident over the weekend where he slid into the dugout trying to catch that ball. Literally went flying, and like nobody caught him. Everybody,
right.
I mean, I know he's got all this gear on, but like I watched the replay in slow-mo and everybody's like diving out of the way of him. I'm like, they must have thought he was fine because he's got all this padding on, but messed up his ankle a little bit. And oddly enough, Bo Naylor got pulled from the game in Columbus.
Yep, everybody got excited for a minute.
We had a ton of fun with that. But turns out Lavastida was actually the guy who came up to Cleveland just to be safe. But
right.
I'm sure they just pulled Bo as a precaution just in case.
I'm sure.
Whenever you see a catcher get hurt, you want your catchers on standby. We know the situation last year when we had that. Who was it? That random catcher came up.
Oh, the guy from that used to play for the Tigers. What was his name?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember.
I know it's gonna drive me nuts now, but like that's how desperately we needed a catcher. So they're like, every catcher in the organization, stop what you're doing, go to safety, don't get hurt. But before we wrap this one up, we'll go into the pitching matchups for Seattle. Big 4-gamer begins at T-Mobile Park or the new Safeco, whatever it is out there now. They're getting some good crowds out there too. Friday night's games on Apple TV. Thursday, we got Tristan going versus lefty Marco Gonzalez. So that's 2 days in a row we face a lefty. I mean, with 2 hits today, I think Owen Miller bought himself like another 2 years of time on this team. So Sure, we'll see him in there at first tomorrow, probably batting cleanup. Marco Gonzalez, he's been struggling a little bit of late. I was talking to a Mariners fan today who said it's an easy W for us against that bum, quote
Wow.
unquote. So I hope he's correct. Friday we got Bieber versus righty Logan Gilbert. He's 10-5 with a 3.52 ERA. Saturday we got Plesac versus Luis Castillo, 5-5, 2.93 ERA. Obviously their deadline acquisition from Cincy. And Sunday, Savali versus lefty Robbie Ray, 9-8, 3.87 ERA, former Cy Young winner. So it sets up to be a wonderful weekend in Seattle. Let's hope we carry this success from San Diego into Seattle. And after that, they have an off day and head home to face the Orioles and the Mariners again at home. So these are all teams kind of clumped in the wild card race.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Seattle's playing very well, and Baltimore is as well. They're that young, pesky team. So
yeah,
it's not going
I'm
to
a
be
glutton
easy.
for punishment. I'm excited to see Julio. I think
There
he's
you go.
good for the game. I'm excited to see him up close. But
Yeah, he is.
all right, everybody, I want to thank you for joining us tonight on our 40th episode of the Guardians of the CLE podcast. After you listen to this episode, make sure on all podcast platforms you give all of our other podcasts a listen. Believe Land Prep, Den of the Dogs, All Things Cavalier, Pile Driver. We got it all covered for you. Go to believelandmediallc.com for all our written content and shoot us a follow and like, rate, and review. Kevin, you got anything else you want to add?
Well, we might have a possible new co-host. We'll see. We got somebody we're going to talk to, and so maybe we might have somebody new next week. But if not, I'll be back to bore you.
Just another thing to make sure you tune in next week for episode number 41. So everybody out there, go ahead and enjoy this Guardians W. Get ready for the big 4-gamer this weekend. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Guardians.
Go Guardians.